She'll get it. Wow, we got everybody. People who said they didn't hear that. Only,
They're doing a study.
you got Eric?
Okay.
Yeah, and then the other people would be Alejandra and Gordon, Victoria, as well as the Lauren Bell. You got her? Good. Okay, and should we test to see if they can hear us?
We're waiting. Yeah.
Can you guys hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, very good, yes. Okay, so we are good to go then, Robin? Yes. Okay, we're good to go.
All right. My pleasure to welcome everyone to a meeting in person of the Environmental Sustainability Committee. For however long it's been. Oh, we're here. I really do. But next time. Okay. We'll call this meeting to order. It's 4:01 p.m. on a beautiful Tuesday in March. It's my honor to acknowledge with respect that we are on Robinson Huron Treaty territory, that the land on which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, known as Powhatan. Powhatan is the home of Garden River First Nation, Batchewana First Nation, and the historic Sault Ste. Marie Nation Council. Looking for someone to, moving on here, adopt the minutes of our last meeting, which was the first meeting of our new committee of council here. And for those of you who are members of the committee, and certainly online as well, anybody who's watching, the minutes from our last meeting are there. And I'm looking for someone to move and second the adoption of those minutes from February 7th. Councillor Gardy, thank you, and Andre Riefel, thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns, changes, deletions, additions? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting those minutes from February 7th, that is carried. Thank you. Anyone have a declaration of pecuniary interest to declare today on anything on our agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the adoption of our agenda. Looking for someone to move and second today's agenda from the committee. Jared, thank you, and Andre to second. Thank you very much. Any questions, additions, deletions, changes? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting today's agenda, that is carried. All right. So we have a tight timeline on today's meeting from 4 to 5 p.m. Happy to see so many of you here in person and the rest of you joining us virtually. And the first, we are going to hear a presentation from Dr. Revick and Dr. Aziz from Algoma University with regards to a research proposal called Blue Economy. And then we're going to follow along to our Green Fund initiatives applications for March. So Dr. Revick, Dr. Aziz, please go ahead.
Thanks for welcoming all of us. And I just wanted to acknowledge that we've been working on this project for a few years, since 2020. And Hannah Kaito and Alejandra Pacosqua are also working on the project with us. And we really appreciate all their work and efforts. So I just want to acknowledge them because they did a lot to help support this research and this. We have to share the screen with the people who are at home. So, oh yeah, because you stand by, guys. We're going to share the screen here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know how to maximize this now? I do. Okay, so. Okay. So we did bring some notes with us, so I'll refer to my notes, but it's kind of, if you could look there, you can look here. I mean, there's so many things that you can look at while I present. So I just wanted to just go over our agenda with you all today. So we're just going to go over our survey and stages of our research to give you some background of what we did and what we found. And we are really looking for a discussion and some feedback from all of you based on what we share with you today. And then we'll talk about some of the next steps and how we're proceeding to phase 2 of our research. So just some quotes that are down there. Josephine Mandevin, she is a water walker. She's an inspiration to this area. And there was a prophecy that was given to her that by 2030, water would amount to the same price as gold. And United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, they also have a target of 2030. So I think it's interesting how those two elements, the Indigenous prophecy and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, coincide. So I started this research a long time ago, about 2019. How many of you have cottages or camps here along the water, or have access to one, or been close to the water growing up maybe? So for me as a child, I always sat and played in the water, sat by the water, and would see colorful rocks through the water often, right? You'd get to see all those beautiful like spear stones. But over time, I noticed like it would kind of get shadowed with this brown stuff, and this was in Blue Bay. And now as an adult, I'm on Haviland, and there's a thick brown sludge on the rocks. And for me, I'm not kind of driven to this like naturally. I feel like I was pushed to do it because the brown thick sludge that my children have to walk on that I didn't concerns me. And so I felt like I had to do something. And that's what brought me to all of this work around water. It's just being a child and seeing colorful rocks, to being an adult and seeing brown sludgy rocks. So very quick story just to encapsulate why I'm here. Now, another piece of this research is something that we feel we're doing because of Truth and Reconciliation calls for action. Indigenous people have been taking care of these lands for thousands of years. They have a wisdom of how to take care of the water, and that's something we should honor, recognize, and be part of. So we see our research as part of TRC. So we're here to serve and seek community partnerships and Indigenous partnerships. In the Upper Great Lakes region, where we sit at the nexus of the Upper Great Lakes, we're looking to incorporate blue or freshwater opportunities and address challenges in the region to promote health and sustainability of our waters, and to build a blue community strategy to really get people aware and engaged on freshwater in this area, to align our efforts, to work together, to hold us accountable, to indicate progress or barriers to progress, to celebrate and to move us forward together. So the blue economy actually was a term that came up in 2012 from the United Nations, and it was further described in 2017 as the World Bank to develop a long-term strategy to support sustainable economic growth through oceans-related sectors and activities while improving human well-being and social equity and preserving the environment. So most people around the globe don't focus on freshwater when they talk about blue economy. We focus on oceans. And we live around lakes that are like oceans. So we felt like this was a perfect opportunity to really understand our local perspectives around freshwater culture, and then to determine what are the opportunities and gaps around freshwater blue community or blue opportunities. So those are our research questions, which tie to our overall main research question, which is how can local freshwater researchers, stewards, and organizations collaborate to better protect, manage, and restore our nexus here in the Upper Great Lakes? So our research methodology is community-based participatory research. We chose this methodology because we wanted to engage with local citizens to really understand what they felt the needs were. And it also segues nicely with Indigenous research methodologies. It eliminates, it creates equity amongst researcher and people who are participating in the research. So in phase one, we gained a general understanding and overview of how people were felt. So many of you may be aware that we're engaged in World Water Day, shoreline cleanups. We've also done water arts, and we're conducting this research. All of that to bring awareness and education and perspectives of freshwater in our community. And once we share the data, we'll talk about phase two, which is where we're looking at more engagement, action, and concrete outcomes.
Right.
Pass it to Ahmed.
Thank you. So again, just to introduce myself, I'm Ahmed Aziz. I work with Jody at Elcom University and School of Business and Economics. And Jody said she has this idea of this research from 2019. However, I kind of joined her in 2022 because I think also shares kind of personal experience growing up 12,000 miles from here in Bangladesh. In our country back home, we have rivers all around, so it's crisscrossed by rivers. So I also grew up around water, and I've seen how we have destroyed that precious resources over time, right? So when I came here like 4 years ago, I feel like we have to do something. We cannot do the same thing that we have done back home. We have to do something. This is my new home, and I want to make sure that we are doing the right thing to preserve our freshwater resource. So in the phase 1 of our study, as part of the phase 1 of our study, we have done surveys on freshwater blue economy. And this survey was done from June 2022 till January of 2023. We gained about 252 respondents through snowball emailing with support of local champions like Sault Ste. Marie Climate Hub, Waterwise, Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce, Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce, Michigan, then Innovation Center. We had a Center of Freshwater Research and Education in the SSU. We have Eastern Upper Peninsula Michigan STEM Region Office, and many more who has actually helped us to gain this amount of response. We have also shared this survey through our social media platforms to gain more traction. Now, if we look at the composition of our respondents, you can see in terms of age distribution, there's a great mix. We have 45% of the respondents who are in the age range of 18 to 34. But at the same time, we have about 27% who are over the age of 55 years. And this actually allows us to observe the diversity of the perspectives, presenting us an opportunity to gain insight into the future use of our freshwater resources across different generations. And if we look at the racial composition, the previous slide. Sorry.
Just remember your time, Kathy.
Okay. So obviously, as expected, we have 62% white Caucasian, but at the same time, we have other racial groups who has responded to this. We have 5% of indigenous representation, and we understand that that's kind of a low number compared to the Algoma district average. But as Jody mentioned, we are continuing our effort to collaborate with indigenous communities and organizations. We have already collaborated with SKG and organized a water circle, and we'll continue to do so to gain more perspective, indigenous perspective into this issue. In the business end of the survey, we have asked the respondents what are the activities they do around freshwater resources. And we understand that outdoor recreation is a significant aspect of Upper Great Lake region, with most activities revolving around its freshwater resources. However, we also acknowledge that it can also be a significant source of eco-friendly economic activities. So the 4 top activities that people have said they are doing around this region is walking, hiking, swimming, beach activities, camping, and bird watching. So this gives us an insight to see what are the activities on which we need to keep investing in to give the citizens better experience. But there are also other activities like canoeing or boating that we have found in survey that the long-term residents are accessing it, but the newcomers are having hard time accessing those things. And we have asked people, what are the things that are creating these barriers? And you have gone too far.
You guys are almost out of time, sorry.
We have a tight agenda.
Right, so financial reason or transportation, public transportation came up. And then we asked people about what are the sectors that are important. And we found that natural resources, waste management, and tourism is one of them. And we found that job opportunities and business opportunities are the ways to go to get benefit from this blue economy concept.
Okay, so some of the challenges, obviously, right? Water quality, pollution, industrial waste, invasive species, and chemicals are the top 4 there. in terms of ways that people felt that we can improve or opportunities, awareness, education, and communication was at the top. Active community involvement was another one. And then enhanced restrictions to industry and pollution, as well as litter prevention were the top 4 there. So basically it's a critical time for a planet. We all see that. And just to wrap up, we basically are entering phase 2 now, and we're looking to build partnerships, as Ahmed said, with Indigenous communities as well as international communities. We've already made some of those partnerships, and that's what you see there. So with our engagement and action, we're looking to share best practices with leaders in Austria and in Spain. We're hoping to have a hub here of business leaders, and they will basically commit to targeting specific sustainable development goals, and we're hoping here regionally they would be tied around water. And then over the year, we would have monthly check-ins where they would share best practices or challenges that they're having as leaders, mobilizing their workforces towards those achievement of those goals. And at the end of the year, we're actually going this spring in April to launch this research, or the second phase of this research, with students from Oglala University and my colleagues in Austria and Spain, where we'll meet with those business leaders. Then over the month, every month, we'll have a check-in, a virtual check-in with the leaders from each area. And then at the end, next spring, 2024, we'll be going back, and we'll be basically having a large forum and wrapping up to determine, you know, over the year, what were some of the great things that happened, the opportunities that resulted, the outcomes, and what are some of the things that we can learn from each other and implement to improve going forward. So we're just looking to see what your opinions are in supporting such a blue community initiative, because we're hoping that would be what Sault Ste. Marie would focus on in the hub here. And the interesting thing is those are actual pictures of each of our cities. So you can see in Austria, they're on a river. In Spain, they're on the ocean. And we're here on the border with our 2 Great Lakes. So we hope the city would be involved, and just wonder your thoughts.
So may I ask a question? You're looking for our committee's support or feedback on our committee support in terms of like moral support, or, you know, just, yes, we think this is valuable idea to pursue. What, when you use the word support, Jody, what are you really asking for?
Leadership, like how can we get the city to have some sort of leadership in this? Just like we would go to different communities in the area and ask for their leadership. We're working with different companies and we're asking for their leadership. So that's what we're looking for. Okay, just an idea of how we go about getting the city to make a commitment. Because the reason we ended up here presenting our research is we were going into phase 2, and we thought, here we are, 2 academics, that's great. We're coming up with some perspectives and ideas, and we'd like to create a blue community strategy. But we're not going to implement a blue community strategy. We're not the city. We're not as I don't think we had time to show it there, but one of the top areas that people in the survey said, like who's responsible for the water and making sure the water is clean and healthy and making those decisions. Government was at the very top, right? So that's why we're here to see how can we engage the municipal government. Maybe there's ways to engage provincial and federal. I'm not sure at this point, but we wanted to start.
I'd like to see who in the committee would like to ask questions or want to share some feedback with Jody and Ahmed.
Did you identify like the water quality? What are the main pollutants like in the water that we have here in the river or in Lake Phoebe?
That's something my colleague over the river does. She has monitoring stations in different places. But honestly, when I started this, that was my interest. I was like, how can we get a baseline of the water quality? Do you know that 10,000 liters of water flows by us every day?
Yeah.
Like this water is changing all the time. So it's really tricky to figure out that. So I'm staying away from, I'm not a scientist.
And we asked them on a high level, the respondents, like, what are the major concerns that you think are the problems? And health, water quality and pollution, as I say, came up on the top. And then it came to industrial waste, invasive species, chemicals, and then climate change. So it's clearly people are thinking locally more, our local problems, that is related to, you know, the Great Lake region, and then going global. That's like climate change affects everybody, but then these things, invasive species, algae bloom and all these things, these are more local problems, so people are aware of it. And they want kind of a solution to it, so.
If I
That's
may,
interesting.
if I may jump in, it's my understanding, doctors, that you have a report that accompanies this presentation, correct? So this is a lot of information you've shared with us as a committee, you know, what you're looking for some city involvement as well. But you also have some great leaders within the community who work in the environmental space who are now aware of this project. So I might recommend, just because we are very short on time, we have a packed agenda and only 1 hour today. Is we have a few more questions if there are some, but that we send out your report. It's done, right?
No. It's almost done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, so you
because
have,
we were thinking that to take some feedback from here,
okay,
also including the report, and then
Okay.
give you the final question.
so maybe we consider this as sort of your your initial introduction, orientation to this group of your project. And I can share it with the committee, your report as it stands right now, and everyone will have your contact information to follow up with you more on one-on-one. And if there's a big interest from this committee, maybe we give them more time and have a meeting where we have this as like the main agenda item, if there's interest on that level. But if there's any other questions, we can maybe open it up to that.
Okay, so you would like to develop a strategy around blue economy, and you're proposing to do that for the city, so the city would have like a strategy that you consult with them on, consult with the public, and that's like you're asking to do that work for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because
We do
as she
it,
said,
yes,
like,
yeah.
we asked them, what are the ways to improve if there is a space for improvement? And one of the thing was education, awareness, like, we can do that, and we have asked people, and they have, like, there's quality questions, and people talked about, you know, having education even in the schools, local schools, about this local issue, so that the kids that are getting raised up in this area know the things from the beginning. We do little bit of that thing during the World Water Day, but on a large scale, we can do that, and if city is interested in it, to have those things, to have those initiatives.
Tori, go ahead. I'm curious if you've come across precedents of leading communities that have blue economy or blue community strategies and what that looks like. And
Yes.
if it's sort of fully if it's a sort of holistic lens approach to community development, or if it's more focused on how for Water Day, more topics.
It's, so the blue economy has different facets that are defined from an oceanic perspective. So we would like to look at those facets like tourism, marine life, right, water quality, you know, all of those facets have jobs that need doing. So we kind of look at our community through those lenses, but from a freshwater perspective, not ocean. And there are other, I mean, the woman who developed the national blue economy strategy, we have been talking, and so I have her framework of what she's used. There's things I like, things I don't like, but we hope that if we create this blue community strategy locally here, it will give us a voice on the national level as well. Because we are such a hub of fresh water.
Who about Eric or Tobin or Mark? Any questions right now? Go ahead, Tobin.
Sure. Thank you for your presentation. I was just wondering, and I'm sorry if I missed it, if it was presented. Do you have data suggesting that it's that water quality and water security is a high priority amongst the community, like the community? Like, do you have data that shows that it's a priority? I know you surveyed people and got their opinion about their views on water, but do you have anything that sort of reflects it as a priority?
So we actually asked them to say in a 1 to 5 scale, how much they think that their relation, what they think about their relationship with water, and how much they value water as a resource that is around us. And we asked them in the beginning of the survey, and then we asked the same question at the end of the survey to see how it changes. So in the beginning of the survey, it came out as about 4.2 out of 5. But at the end, it came out as 4.7, which people realized while going through answering this question, that it is more important to their life because they find out that, okay, so this thing affects us, this thing affects me. And yeah, so we kind of asked the thing, and people say that it's a high priority, their relationship with water, how it affects their life.
And just to add, Tobin, there were 252 respondents. So it's a nice number, but it's not, like in terms of our community, I can't say that the survey speaks for the entire community, because we also asked people from across the river, as well as our First Nations communities. We tried to get as much input as we could. Just wanted to point that out.
Go ahead, Eric.
Well,
Sorry. Go ahead,
sorry,
Eric.
if I could just continue, well, it seems to me if of your survey pool, even though it's small, if it was such a high priority, maybe it is worth investigating further as a community priority.
Thank you, Tobin. Eric?
I'm just going to give maybe a suggestion. In my opinion, probably the biggest challenge to sustainable use of water resources in Canada, or one of the biggest challenges, is the fact that there's so many jurisdictions that are at play. That's a big challenge in a lot of natural resources, sustainable natural resource in Canada in general, but water in particular. You'll have federal, provincial, and municipal all kind of tackling different aspects. And at the national level, that's the purpose of the incoming Canada Water Agency, is to serve a role of trying to consolidate knowledge across these jurisdictions and try to help focus, because federal will say that's not my jurisdiction, municipal will say that's not my jurisdiction, so on. So that's a role that the CWA is trying to play at a federal level. And I think maybe you could think of this as playing that kind of role at the municipal level, to at least try to cross jurisdictions and help identify. I think you have to cross jurisdictions to help identify what the main challenges to water sustainability are anyways. And so anyways, that's just a suggestion. Maybe think in those lines of being, a means to crossing these jurisdictional challenges.
Thank you, Eric. I'm gonna give Councilor Gardy, just if you have anything you wanted to add quickly before we have to move on.
On the top of my head, no, but I think it's important to balance the sustainability piece is important, but I hear this as blue and I hear this as economy, right? So there are a lot of economic advantages to our geographical location. There are a lot of economic advantages to a blue economy strategy. And essentially what I'm hearing is it's well established, if you would say at the ocean level, and what we want to do is replicate it on the Great Lakes, right? And so if you want to talk further about it, let me know. Myself and Tom Bear attended the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative meeting in Niagara last year, and a lot of it was focused on the blue economy at the freshwater level, particularly the Great Lakes, and we might be able to help you out with some contacts and stuff like that. Okay,
Great, thank you.
yeah, pretty good.
Okay, so we're gonna get a report to follow up, and the committee will have an opportunity to absorb that and come back, and thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Okay, and thanks for your work. We're moving on to the Green Initiative Program applications, and the first one we have is the Sault Ste. Marie Fire Services lawn maintenance equipment electrification project funding. Emily, do you want to take us through the highlights?
Okay, so with us today is Matt Patty, the Assistant Fire Chief from City Fire Services. You've all been supplied with the application in your agenda package, but the long and short of it is, Fire is looking to electrify their lawn maintenance equipment. They have approached the Environmental Sustainability Committee for assistance to replace 4 weed eaters and batteries, as well as 1 riding lawnmower with electric models. They have $5,000 allocated in the city budget for this equipment. However, quotes obtained for electric models show a cost of about $8,900, so there is a shortfall of approximately $3,900 for electric replacement. If no additional funding from the Green Fund is available, they will be purchasing internal combustion lawn equipment due to budget funding and their equipment reaching end of life. I'll also add that last year, there was a resolution that was brought forward by city council to start looking at electrifying city equipment. And this is certainly something that totally aligns with that. Electrical lawn maintenance equipment will reduce emissions by approximately 84%, bearing in mind that electricity is very clean in Ontario, but not 100%. And there's also other added benefits, no tailpipe emissions. They produce less carbon monoxide and fewer hydrocarbons compared to gas mowers. Quotes have been provided in your agenda package. Not anything else you want to add?
Yes, thanks for having me today. I think this is a great program. Also, thank you, Emily, for doing the whole speech. Also, with this, it reduces our servicing also. So with our lawn equipment, we service it twice a year. So this would reduce our waste and oil filters, waste oil. And and so on my quotes, I was actually surprised of the companies that don't provide any electric. Out of everyone in town, I found three companies. So this is, I know it's just a small step, but I think baby steps, at least we're getting into it. And with fire services being out, we're emergency equipment. Not much of this is available to our department. So if we can do our part, this is where we're at.
Questions from anyone with regards to this application? Andre?
Yeah, if I look at the fire department, I think I think I'm not against at all the idea of using electric lawnmowers, but I think when you look at biggest emitters is your fleet trucks,
Yeah,
big monster trucks then. And I've been doing a lot of research into why fire departments buy such big vehicles, and there's a trend around the world to make buy smaller vehicles. So I'm not against the idea of electrifying the thing, but I think in the big picture of what the fire department does, it's a very small thing, but it opens that door for that conversation, and I think that's positive. But I think that conversation needs to keep going, and I would love to be involved.
Yeah, perfect. The biggest thing is because our water pumps, like they're 2,000 gallons per minute, so it's such a volume of water. You can't have a small engine turning that rate. And again, the fire industry is working on it. They're working on the generators, hybrids, and stuff like that, but we're not quite there yet.
You're also seeing other municipalities purchase electric fire
Yeah,
engines, so the technology is.
100%. What they're doing is, so when they're on site, the truck will shut down and run on electric, so all their lighting will run on a battery until it gets until the battery gets low, and then a backup generator will kick on and charge the batteries.
Yes, Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a big supporter of this. I've been a supporter of electrifying lawn equipment since my last, the last iteration of this committee, because it's true that comparing to, big trucks, maybe it's a small drop in the bucket, but lawn mowers are big emitters, even, compared to cars. So anyways, I think it's a good idea. My only question, and I guess it's probably, I don't know who the question is for, but if there's initiatives from the city to electrify this equipment, then why are they not raising that $5,000 to cover the costs? Why does it have to come from the Green Initiatives Fund?
Anybody have the answer to that question?
That's a good question, Eric. Let's just say that baby steps are where it starts. There is action that is being taken through resolutions directing staff to look into electrifying all small engine equipment. So having information like that, hopefully we'll see that report come back to council this year with some more costs, etc. But if we're going to meet our emission reduction targets of net zero, we're going to have to start budgeting for that. So I would consider this a good thing, because now we know Now we know what those costs are. Matt's done Public Works a favor by looking into what does an electric weed eater cost? What does an electric lawn mower cost, right? So consider it a step in the right direction, but absolutely there's room for more improvement there.
And Eric is right, so the automotive industry has emission standard where grass equipment don't. So that's why there's like 2 strokes, you're burning gas and oil, which is going straight into the environment, so.
Conscious of time here, anyone with other, Tobin? Thank you.
Just a quick question. So my guess is that the lawn equipment is used to maintain city property.
Yes,
Okay. For me, this begs the broader question. Not that I don't support this, but in a move towards sustainability, perhaps the city needs to look more broadly and look at how making property so it is sustainable without the use of lawnmower, the use of just engineering outdoor spaces that don't require such maintenance, and perhaps have a carbon capture potential rather than having to mow lawns might be an avenue to explore. But because, you know, day-to-day reality, this is something I support, but it begs a bigger question, I think.
Thanks, Tobin. Tori?
Just a sort of request or suggestion, in the application, you speak to how the capital cost of an electrified lawnmower will offset operational costs, but perhaps throughout the year, you could actually monitor that, and then we have that.
yeah,
To be able to
definitely.
make that comparison
Mhm.
tangibly.
Yeah, sure,
That'd be super, you know, that would be just such a cool number when it comes to budget time.
great,
I
great.
would start thinking about that.
Yeah, I will definitely put something together and I'll get the guys to start tracking their fuel.
Super. Or lack thereof,
Black, that's right.
in a few minutes, if you're lucky. If we're not- Seeing none, looking for someone, who I think I should have done before, my apologies. Looking for someone to move and second, of the, funding request. As we just discussed. Looking for hands, Councilor Gardy and Tori. All right, so the motion, any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion is resolved that we support the request for funding from the Green Initiative Program in the amount of $3,920 for the fire services lawn maintenance equipment. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you.
Keep thinking green, Matt. Keep thinking green and don't accept anything less. Okay.
Yeah.
We're good to go.
Okay, thank you very much.
Shoreline cleanup project funding request. I should have done this the last time, so I'm gonna do it this time. I need someone to move and second the conversation on this item. Chair and Councilor Gardy, thank you. Discussion, go ahead, Emily.
Okay, so the Lake Superior Watershed Conservancy has applied to the Green Committee for funding to conduct a shoreline cleanup. They are partnering with the Sioux Marie Region Conservation Authority as well as the Invasive Species Center for an Indigenous-led water care and spring cleanup at 3 conservation areas, including Marks Bay, Shore Ridges, and Fort Creek. Each cleanup will begin with an elder/traditional ecological knowledge holder holding a teaching circle that will set the stage for a different approach to engaging with water quality cleanups as well as invasive species. These events will close with a sharing circle led by an elder, and monies from the fund will go towards cleanup kits to be distributed to participants. Estimated participant numbers is around 90, if I'm not mistaken. A water filling station for participants to refill reusable bottles, honorariums for elders, as well as videographer and photographer equipment and a consultant to promote and organize the event. The project fits the three pillars of the Green Initiatives Fund, including emissions reduction, water quality, and waste reduction. Over to you, Joni, Donna, anything to add to that application description to speak to the committee about what you would hope to do with this project?
There's been so much beautiful discussion around water today. I just could emphasize that within our community at Gallatin here, we have an incredible Indigenous-led knowledge around water, that it is life and we are water. And I feel like that was the approach. The idea was to bring together partnerships with the Invasive Species Center, the Region Conservation Authority, to bring more knowledge around the conservation areas, and that cleanups are not just a one-time activity, but that the participants would actually have a more of a knowledge base or a thinking to approach this day or this activity, so that they can go away, they can do the activity and then come back from it. The idea is that they feel differently about our connection to water and our care of water. And see it as a multi-generational, a family, many people in our community being able to participate in this, and just bringing some significant partnerships together around a different way to approach this. We are putting some significant effort into sharing this activity, because we want to share that we are working together, and we want to share this way of approaching water care. And I feel that being able to uplift Indigenous voices in our community, and people that I work with, and a number of them, people like Shirley Horn and I are doing the World Water Day event, should be helping with this activity and others. And that's really what I'd like to share. Yeah,
Thanks, Julie. Okay, looking for questions from the committee.
Okay, a couple questions. So I saw the Indigenous-led focus, but in the list of partners, which First Nations communities are you partnering with? Like, which ones are you gonna bring in? Because
I work with Batchewana First Nation, their healthcare center. So I have a number of folks down there, whether it's moving air on the side or the air. And Shirley Horn with Nissinawbe Cree First Nation. And I certainly would like to Tess Sullivan and talking with her now about the water quality project that Elaine Hotchison is working at the university. We're involved with that. And I didn't really know whether this would be accepted at council or not, or the Green Initiatives program. But thank you, Emily, for all your help in helping us, just make sure what we bring forward is good. So
Yeah,
our partners are very engaged and really, really interested in uplifting this, the Indigenous voices that we follow.
I was curious because it wasn't listed on the application, but I was also wondering, because it is Indigenous-led and conservation authorities are a great linkage to the municipality, but could there be the dual benefit of picking the shoreline that they may have interest in, and also helping clean up some shorelines that they value?
So
not that they don't value those ones, but I guess I was just wondering, matching the effort from First Nations to the city.
I'm sorry that I don't quite fully understand what you're asking me to answer, but I will say that that the sharing of this and ending up with video and photography and the sharing amongst all the partners here is a really big part about saying this is a model pilot project for this kind of approach to cleanups. And that's, I don't know if that answers.
Perhaps for me, if I said, perhaps, the way you're looking at this is you have your partners who are going, including the Conservation Authority, and the First Nations that you have existing projects and partnerships with. You're going to leverage this sort of as your first kick of the can. And perhaps in the future, we can expand on it through, the digital assets of photo and videography to other locations. And this is good insight from Nyron, to have other areas that perhaps align, and you can kind of keep that in the back of your mind for consideration in the future, that perhaps are areas that our local Indigenous partners have a say in. So when you're working with them, maybe that's something you can ask them about for future projects.
Oh, for sure. Thank you.
Guys,
Thank you.
Thank you. Tobin?
Thanks. Lots of questions today. You sort of touched on it, Joni. I saw when I looked at the budget breakdown, it looks like a good portion is dedicated to communications in photography, videography, and like communications, another line. Maybe can you speak to why that's such an important part of this project?
Yes, just to add to, the sharing part is a really huge component of this because these kinds of activities tend to be one-off. We bring the community together, we bring all these partners together, but really only the participants within it actually are benefiting by seeing that, and they come to it and then they leave it, and then it isn't anything that we can grow and expand and see it. Just, I'm really learning a lot about developing a pilot project that can be expanded on. And I can't do that at the Conservancy without really good media materials and storytelling through video and photography, because all the partners can then share the activity afterwards. We're approaching our World Water Day activity down with the students as well. I can only take 3 classes due to the water sharing and the teachings of the river offerings. But by collecting all that media, we will be able to share that and then expand that again for next year. And that's what I have to say. Yeah, like he's at.
And part of why we need the video and the community awareness, that will assist us in grant writing. Without the video and the photos, we cannot approach corporations to build this program that it becomes sustainable and a long-term project. So it isn't a one-off, but that is the focus of this project. And our goal also is by next year, if we're successful with this, we hope that this program will be led by like a youth advisory environmental committee as part of the Conservancy.
Any other questions?
Can I ask about the rationale for the hand sanitizer? I know like the purpose, but just the dollar and for the.
Yeah, that really was to try and support the local business. That's been really the whole idea of reducing plastics and doing like refilling of our containers in all of our ways. I did not want to just go to Canadian Tire. We could do that a cheaper route, but I wanted to support the refill of the business in town. Ration.
Other questions from anyone? I'm gonna, Councilor Martin, do you have anything?
Well, I think a couple of the questions that I kind of had been asked. I did know, it's silly as it may seem, the same question related to the hand sanitizer. I think it was approaching $1,000, maybe $850 or something. Thought it was quite a bit. There's 90 participants. There's $10. I had sanitizer per individual. Yeah, so I just don't know about if this is if this, and I have a lot more to familiarize myself with this committee, but as I looked at the scope of the project, obviously falls within the mandate of what we're trying to do here. I just thought some of the financial aspects may have been a little but, and not necessarily for what I thought this committee necessarily donates to or invests in, for lack of a better way to put it. The effort 100%, probably as financially, I was scratching my head on.
So if you don't mind, I can just give some background from the tourism board and other committees. You know, when we look at applications, you know, obviously there's a lot of meat there, a lot of things that meet our criteria. Items that we don't feel align with our criteria, we've reduced the grant. So that as a committee process wise is an option.
Okay. Okay. You know, I will say I have a bit of a concern after spending a number of years dealing with issues around conflict. And I just feel that I have to say this. There's a relationship between you and folks that are receiving the funds within this, and that's very uncomfortable for me. I'm challenged by that, because in many cases that would be considered a conflict. So I'm struggling to get some direction here or look for some direction from the committee. If anyone else is concerned about that, or if anybody else is thinking that there's some concerns about the dollars that are being asked for, or how that money is allocated. I'll certainly take the direction of everyone who's here, but could I get some sense of how the committee feels comfortable, if you'd like to further discuss this, or if you'd like to move this, do we have an option to move this forward to our next?
We can, but we can also, as Travis said, if the committee feels strongly about an expense that perhaps, you know, is not, in their opinion, being appropriate, we can amend the ask to not include that now.
Can I get some feedback from folks, Cory, Major, Andre, Councillor Gardy, Eric, Mark, Tobin, can we get some direction from you here, please? Anybody?
So I may I,
Yeah, of course.
I can't speak to what you mentioned, Donna, in the sense of like, some sort of relation. I have no sense of that, so I have no idea. So in terms of like the only thing that caught my eye more than anything financially was the hand sanitizer. And like, I don't know, I think you could probably, and I appreciate why you were looking to support a local effort. But if you know, it could be like a third or a half of the cost. I don't see why we didn't want it at this point. Maybe look at lowering that, but as you're not comfortable talking about this because there may be some sort of relationships, I'm not comfortable saying that there is, because I don't know the situation, so I don't really want to.
Well, I think it would have to be clarified.
Could I speak to that? Is it useful for me to say anything or not?
I'm not sure at this moment. I'm looking for a little bit more input from anyone else, either here or there, as I'm looking both ways. Go ahead. And
From my perspective, I think when I looked through it, and the hand sanitizer raised a red flag to me, and I think knowing Travis what you just shared with us, I probably would have looked at everything with a little bit of a different lens. And so I'm curious if pushing this out a month, like, does that jeopardize your project timeline? I just don't want to now vote, having not gone back looking at it from that lens of being able to be more selective with what might be.
Yeah.
So
Oh, so that is whether it threatens it?
yes,
We were gonna do one project in April, one project in May, one project in June. So I guess we could do like squeeze them together more. If you want.
There's also the fact that this has to go to council as well for final approval after the committee. Okay.
can we, Mark?
Sorry, I'm muting myself here. I guess if we're looking for some opinions on this, my comments would be, have you looked at going out to the community to support for donations, not only just through this committee, but other locations for those donations? And then I think to your point, Donna, about if somebody you're asking money for this is directly related or supported through this, that is and somehow, then yeah, that should to me cause a conflict, and we should, you know, I guess figure out how to resolve that first.
So I'll just, if I can, so the city doesn't have any policy prohibiting that kind of a conflict. What would be required is to speak to the organization. Do you have any governance or policies or bylaws within the Lake Superior Watershed Conservancy that prohibit a director, because this individual is a director on your board, as well as yourself, from profiting financially from a community initiative? Do you have any governance documents of that sort?
We do, and there isn't any issue with our board. our board fully supports this project and this approach. And getting the high quality media input in a very flexible and also culturally sensitive approach that I can assure and teach anybody else to do. There's a number of assets in approaching it this way that will give us the kind of quality of product that we need to be able to share this in a good way. Our board doesn't have any issue with this at all.
Okay, so that answers that question. So because their project is there, sorry, go ahead, Mark.
I think his hand is still up from before, but did you have anything to
Sorry,
add?
yeah. Yeah,
Emily has a suggestion. Thank you. Can you go ahead?
All right. So what I'd like to propose is bearing in mind that this project not only has to seek approval from this committee, but it needs a final stamp of approval from city council. And those meetings happen like once a month, so there's a process and timeline for that. I guess there's two ways to look at this. One is, can you bump your scope to potentially go back and, you know, look into this hand sanitizer cost situation? Or two, can we either cut, as Councilor already suggested, like this ask for hand sanitizer down to bear in mind this high level, even though there's support for this being a local community organization. And we can amend the budget, as was explained by Travis, what we as a committee agreed to allocate towards this in the essence of the project's time. Travis,
So, well, yeah, I mean, there's, I guess, a couple other options. One, the funding go to the two later projects, which would allow the board more time to contemplate this, you know, especially just given Tori's comments and others. You know, or you could vote in general in principle on the, so you can take the application as stands, make a vote. If people don't feel comfortable with it, you can not approve it, reduce the cost, or defer the decision for a later date. So.
How does everybody feel about deferring the decision? So that we could address some of these issues? Can I ask, Tori, yes, 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 Councilor Gardy, yes. Gentlemen, from afar,
yes.
thank you, okay. Okay, then that's what we'll do for today, and Emily will follow up with you both, and we'll take it from there if we could. Thank you very much. All right, we have one last funding request. I'm looking for someone to move and second the Invasive Species Center, Sault Ste. Marie Himalayan Balsam Community Management Project. Someone to move, someone to second. Dejere and Tori. Go ahead, Emily.
Okay, so for this project, we have the Invasive Species Center on the line virtually. The Sault Ste. Marie Himalayan Balsam Community Management Project is a collaboration between the Invasive Species Center and a slew of other environmental organizations to build a coordinated response to tackle the growing Himalayan balsam populations in Sault Ste. Marie. For those who don't know, Himalayan balsam is an invasive species that is just spreading like wildfire in our community. This project will involve the development of common messaging on identification, prevention, reporting, and management through public communications, community polls, and educating and encouraging homeowners to manage and replace the species on their properties. There will be some self-guided initiatives where residents will be encouraged to report sightings, and there will also be an online form where people can submit those. There'll be a series of events, both public and private polls taking place between the center and partners. So a grand total of 5 events. Public members will be encouraged to participate, taught hands-on how to manage Himalayan balsam. There's partnership with the city on how this will be disposed of properly. There will be resources distributed to participants for stewardship. And attendees will leave not only knowing about what the invasive species is, but how broader invasive species issues can be prevented in their day-to-day actions. The ESG pillars that this address are improving water quality and rehabilitation and healthy and resilient ecosystems. We're joined by Tara and Lauren Bell from the Invasive Species Center. Tara, Lauren, anything else that you'd like to add about the project?
Sure, I can go first, Sarah. Yeah, so thank you so much for having us today. The Himalayan balsam is a species that we hear a lot about in the Sioux, specifically because it's continuing to spread. The benefit of managing this specific invasive plant is that it can be done on a stewardship level, which is not the case for all invasive plants. So Himalayan balsam is one of the top species that we get calls to our info line in our center itself, located here in the Sioux. And so this would be an opportunity in order to employ community members through different initiatives to really take the initiative on the land to manage invasive species, particularly Himalayan balsam. But we also know based on research that invasive species can breed other invasive species. And so it starts with Himalayan balsam as a stewardship applicable species and really has a environmental benefit on the landscape through the management of stewardship applicable species in general. So it's really a start in order to really move the environment back into a place that can support other native species, not exclusively the monoculture of Himalayan balsam.
Thanks, Lauren.
Questions from anyone?
Yeah, I think this is great. It looked like it was really well organized. I have one suggestion. And it was when I was going through the items for, I think it was a water jug. And I mean, the cost is minimal, but I was thinking that might be a really good way to partner with some clubs, asking them, because I know the Sioux Cycling Club, for example, has a water jug. And cyclists, hikers, the Voyageur Club might be responsible for spreading it sometimes. So just widening the awareness and zoning in on those partnerships as well, getting the message out to more people. Thanks.
Mark?
And I think I guess mine would be more of a suggestion too, on the communications front of things. I guess to get out to reach more people and talk to more people, you have a few different avenues. But I think, looking to be involved more in the community things, I'll use Rotary Fest for an example. You're not holding events to try and get people to come to you. You're being at events that people are already going to in significant amounts. So I think from my perspective, that's, my comment that I would say is, if you're looking to get out to talk to people or target the largest audience that you can, participating in events like that, are bringing the people to you already that are going to be there. So.
So captive audience, there you go.
They're there for a reason, they'll talk to you, so.
Tara, is there something you wanted to maybe speak to about the mill market within the proposal? I believe that you have something in there regarding setting up a booth throughout the summer to build awareness.
Yeah, for sure. So there's going to be part of the proposal is a booth at the mill market. So there's going to be a summer student there who's going to be available to answer questions. And I believe they're going to have resources available for people to take home with them. So like native seed packs, and also to just redirect them to, pull events, come join us. And and also just to our website for more information on the plant and other invasive species.
Okay. Anyone else with questions? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for the vote here then, be resolved that we support the request for funding, $6,416.19 for the Invasive Species Center Himalayan Balsam Community Full Project, and we recommend that council approves this request. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Emily, take us home.
Okay, so I am not going to share my PowerPoint presentation. It's in your agenda package. Take a look at it. There's a staff update in there. Our next meeting, pending a possible revisit with the Lake Superior Watershed Conservancy, is going to solely be devoted to prioritizing what this committee would like to see as priorities for the corporation, but also projects or ideas that you'd like to take on. I've had the opportunity to meet with some of you already one-on-one. For those of you who I haven't met with, please, between now and the end of the month, let's schedule that touch point because I'm collecting all of these ideas. We're gonna bring them forward. We're going to talk about them. We're gonna come up with a list, and I want to leverage this as we start thinking about 2024. You know, the budget is just around the corner, even though we just approved the 2023 budget. There's priorities, there's policies, internal operational changes that could be supported by this committee, but also an opportunity for committee members to lead projects and initiatives that they might find interest through working with me. So take a look at the agenda package. That's it.
Okay, and I really hope that everybody could do their very, very best to get us all here in person for that next meeting. If you could possibly accommodate that, that would be super, so that we can have an across the table discussion about priorities and could put a really good plan on the table. And with that, call or mover and seconder to adjourn today's meeting. Councilor Gardy and Andre Riacal, all those in favor, that is approved. 5:06. Thank you very